actually prepared for my name to come out of the box. But there have been so many stories of love told tonight. I thought, you know what? How about a story of loathing? Just to And I know you should ideally tell stories where you're not just kind of picking on someone, but I'm just going to break that rule. This is a former boss. It was someone I mentioned today in a workshop that I led, and this is not someone who's in this town anymore, so it's all good. I'm still not going to name names. I was very young, and you know how when you're young, you really want to impress your boss. You want to come into a workplace and be amazing, and I can just still see her face from the first time I walked in as a temp, and she was a real estate broker who had her own business, and I think I knew I was going to be in for it the first time I saw her, because she had she had kind of big hair, a lot of makeup. She'd clearly been around for a long time and was impeccably dressed and just had a very kind of pinched face. And my people-pleasing side was sure that I had to make this woman think I was awesome. I'm going to come in and be the best assistant she'd ever had. I had just left another job that after a number of years where I was really ready to work somewhere different. And she liked me so much. I was a temp to perm hire. She hired me from the temp agency and always resented how much it cost, I think. And I didn't know anything about real estate beforehand, so she was thinking, maybe this is someone I can train, get her real estate license, and then when I go on vacation, she can show houses for me, and I'll get the commissions. So it sounded good in theory, and then maybe I would become an agent. I did not want to do that. And I think about how young you are sometimes when you don't know how to deal with let's just call it a toxic person or someone who's a narcissist, now that The Devil Wears Prada is about to come out. Because I saw that movie and I had kind of a little bit of a stress reaction, I think, to it. I told the story today when I was just trying to come up with an example of, someone like a narcissist that you just really, you can't just fix a person, you can't convince them to be a nice person. She would call me into my office, her office. My desk was in the hall. I had a little desk in the hallway. And she'd say, Dina, come in here. I need to talk to you about something. And she would look me in the eye and pick up the phone while staring at me and just dial and stand there and have a phone conversation while I stood there as her lackey waiting to do her bidding. And that to me is just like the perfect example of what a person can be like when they're wanting to show their power. She was also a very fast and scary driver. You spend a lot of time in the car when you're showing houses and going around to put up signs at listings, and she was always wanting me to take notes while we drove, and I get a little car sick. So I was literally nauseous a lot of the time around her. The other agents in this business were also frightened and or unhappy with her, and she was always afraid. She was very paranoid, like how powerful people can be, that they were all going to be out to get her, and they were going to break away, and several of them did break away to her biggest competitor, and her greatest fear came true, especially when one of them was wanting me to be their assistant. And I actually, instead of being that other person's assistant, I actually just went to work for the company itself, which then would become another story of a place I ultimately needed to break free from. And when you get pushed too far in a workplace, sometimes you reach your limit of what you can really accept from people, but you also don't know how to advocate for yourself. Sometimes the only thing you can do is decide you're going to have an exit strategy. And on the one day when somebody treated me like the help, they called us the help in this place, one time too many, I picked up the phone myself. And I called a friend of mine who was working at UGA who just got promoted. And I said, hey, Stephen, what about your old job? And that was the best decision I could have made. I've been at UGA ever since, and I'm celebrating my 19th year.